Welcome to Company Showcase, an advertising feature on HowStreet.com.
I'm Jim Goddard. We're speaking with Cascadero Chairman Bill McWilliam. Welcome back to the show, Bill.
Thank you, Jim.
Can you tell us about your Taron property?
Certainly. This is a Cesium, thallium rare metal property that we've done a lot of work on it. We've done a lot of metallurgy. We just finished a 33 drill hole program on the property, and all the assays and samples and all of the drill core is in place. At the beginning of the program, we retained a consultant called Geosim. That's run by a well-known geologist, Ron Simpson. And he is still involved, and at the moment, he is the only person working on this project, and that's been true for about a month. He's compiling all of the data and creating a resource study, and that resource study, we should have it available next week. I'm expecting, we've got 5 drill holes and a lot of assays from this property, and what I'm expecting is the same basic idea of this property, and that we're thinking there's 5 metals that we're going to focus on. The cesium, rubidium, thallium, manganese, and zinc. And we think that each of those has economic potential. So it should be a very interesting resource study, and we're really looking forward to it. And we'll get it, try and understand it a little bit more, because we're not really familiar with these things, and get it into a public format. The 43-101 will be commissioned after that, and that will take we have to do it within 45 days, and that'll take some more work. And it is more of just a general explanation of the geological setting of the property, its location, the partners, the communities, and just a general background information on the property, plus the resource study.
Whereabouts is the Taron property?
The Taron property is in northwestern Argentina, and it's the closest community is called Positos, which is essentially halfway across Argentina towards the Chilean border. 275 kilometers from the city of Salta, which is where our office is. It's accessible by road. You can drive right to the property. There are no communities within 50 kilometers of the property, so we're not expecting any community issues. And the property has no vegetation, basically, and there's lots of water there, so it's an ideal place for a mine.
Bill, you also have a gold property you're developing or looking at.
Yeah, that's also become a little bit of an issue, and let me explain that. We have 27 properties in this company. 22 of them are in basically 4 core areas, and we have 5 that are standalone type opportunities. What we did at the beginning of the Taron program in February, there was quite a bit of a delay between the weather was poor, the drilling didn't start. The assays, when we started drilling, got confused. There was confusion on the blanks and standards. There was several issues that we had to deal with. During that time, we decided that we had 3 properties that were very good properties, and I want to work on all of them, but this was an opportunity to have our geologists and prospectors who are sitting either in the Taron camp or in Salta and getting paid to get into the field and do the geochemistry on these 2 properties, Santa Rosa and Cerrita Este. There are 2 properties here. So we sent them to the field, and they spent 3 weeks out there doing the mapping and the sampling, collected the samples. In one case it was 275, and the other one there was 45 samples. And they all got packaged up and sent to the lab. Within days later, they were working on the Taron prospect. Now, the idea of this company is we do not have a gold company, and we do not have a cesium company. We have one company that's got the capability of a exploration staff to develop, review, develop, and organize all of these properties. We never went to Argentina looking for copper or gold or whatever. We went there to find whatever was there in terms of the alteration systems. It was a little different business plan, but it's worked out very well. So the decision was made to send those people there. It turns out that it didn't cost a lot of money. It didn't interfere with the Taron program. It was essentially free because we had to pay those people anyways, and they're good. They'd love to get out in the bush anyhow, or in the properties. And we got 2 fantastic reports and several very exciting assays from these 2 properties, both of which advanced them significantly. So there was no idea that we had information on Taron that we didn't think was favorable enough, and we switched to other properties without telling anybody. That's not what happened. The decision was made long before there was any information on Taron. So that's one of the misconceptions that's in the marketplace, and I'd really like to clear that up.
Bill, can you tell us a bit about your job? You're a little different than most chairmen. You're a real hands-on guy, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I know the properties, and I know a lot of the contacts we've made in Argentina over the 13 years that we've been there are now coming into play. We've got a very valuable network. We're getting referrals from our lawyers who have supported us as a foreign company in the country. And we're able to enter into NDAs or CAs or whatever you want. But this is not an easy task right now. This part of the market is very difficult. The flavor of Argentina right now is still not very good for major companies to make major investments in the country. And they're just waiting to see if the government is going to be stable enough to support, larger investments. We have no problem working anywhere down there. We can get permitted for whatever we want to do, and we can advance these properties to the drill stage, which is what my job is. So my job specifically is to review the portfolio. I know how much money we're spending on provincial taxes, and we're trying to lower that amount because we still have too many properties. And I'm in the position of being able to say we're going to advance this property to the option point, to the drill point, or to the kill point. And that's what I do. And that's why we took on the gold deposits, the gold geochemistry programs, when we had the opportunity, because we've got 27 properties. I'm trying to advance all of them as money per. That's why they're there. That's my job.
Bill, you have a resignation to tell us about?
We do. And in terms of, this goes right back to 2004, and it involves the Tehran property. When I got the first assays from Acme Labs at that point in 2004, the first person I phoned was Dave Taron. He's an expert geochemist. He has an interest in these type of properties, the brine, lithium properties, an expert in those. And we had lunch several times together in 2005, and we discussed the possibility that the brine systems that are operating as the Andes have been rising for 35 million years, it creates a lot of hot water and a lot of acid in the water, and that brine system strips the metals out of the basalt cover, and they are deposited elsewhere, but they're in a brine. There's no crystal structure to these minerals at that point. So we talked about that at length, and Tom Richards was also involved in the idea and helped develop the idea. And Taron was the first example of a polymetallic, epithermal, rare metal system. And when I phoned Dave and sent him the assay, he sent me an email back saying, one word, it said, "Yikes, you found it." And it was a moment of, everyone was ecstatic. We had a partnership with Schlumberger, who was using a product called cesium formate, which is the main use of the cesium metal. And that lasted for 3 years. They spent $750,000 or $1 million on the property. And we had a problem with the arsenic that we've now resolved. So Taron has gone through a series of very interesting studies out at UBC. Metallurgically, we've solved the 2 principal factors that kill properties. Firstly, the number one problem was how could we recover the cesium from the brine? And we speculated that, we should just try simple sulfuric acid leaching, and that turned out to be correct. The next step was to find out a way of eliminating or reducing the arsenic level below 1 gram per ton, which is means that it's just sort of an impurity but not a factor. And UBC came up with a flow sheet that solved that problem. So the 2 principal material facts about a mining property were resolved, and now we knew we had something we could develop and get a partner interested in. There was a period of time between 2009 when we drilled Taron between 2015, when we got 100% control of the property, and nothing happened. So nothing happened for 6 years. I mean, it was the first property that we had when we reorganized and decided to get the company back in business. There was 3 properties that came to the top. There was Taron, Santa Rosa, and Sarita Estates, 2 gold properties. Taron had the advantage in terms of starting with, because it had more data, and it had metallurgy that showed us that this deposit, a very unique deposit, could be an economic deposit. At the same time, the world global cesium market was starting to come apart, as there were only 2 producers of the metal, and both of those mines were having problems. One of them is shut down, and the other one is basically out of ore. So there's going to be an issue coming up here fairly soon that a new source of cesium is going to be required to fulfill the lack of new supply coming from those 2 properties. We're not quite there yet, and we don't know exactly when that's going to happen, but that's the position we wanted to put this property into, that it could be the property that 1 or 2 of these companies had to buy to maintain their own businesses. And these are big businesses. And so we're dealing with major companies. Both of them are aware of what we're doing, and they're keeping track of what we're doing. And we're at the point where we're going to be able to talk to them fairly soon. So Dave Truman was fundamental to that entire process, although he wasn't a director and he wasn't really associated with the company. He became a director in 2012 and took on the Tehran development part of the business. But the truth is, we don't have a gold business and a cesium business. We have a mining company that has gold properties, and it has we have cesium properties, and we have zinc properties, and we have a range of properties. And it's the same crew that works on everything. There's no division of labor, and everybody is on the same page at the same time. When I got an email from Dave on June 29th in the afternoon saying, I'm handing in my resignation. I can't. My productivity is very poor. I'm not in good health, and I need to resign to relieve some of the stress, because we were ramping up 3 exploration properties at the same time, and believe me, it's a lot of work. So, and he sent us a list of the things that he had wrong with him. I've known him for a long time, and I'm aware of his health issues, and they're long-standing. We accepted that and said, we never questioned his reason. But now the market has kind of put a false premise together that Truman had the information on the cesium property, and right before, he'd been with it for 13 years, and right before it's ready to be commercial or expectation of getting money out of the property, he resigns. That makes no sense. But the market interpreted it to mean that Taron was a bust. That is not the truth. The property is under the tutelage of Ron, and it is going to have a resource study next week. I'm expecting exactly what we had last time. We know the volume is probably there in that many drill holes. The issue is the grade, and the issue is it economic? Those answers are not available yet, and they won't be available until we go through a PEA, which is part of the 43-101. But we will have a resource study on that property. It'll have a resource on those 5 metals. That's very uncommon. So that's where we stand. His resignation is only interpreted by us as for health reasons, and we accepted it. And he's still interested in the property. He's not doing any work for us right at the moment, but when it comes time to review the final UBC metallurgical stuff, I believe he will be interested enough to take it on for a day or 2. So he hasn't left. Taron is not a bust, and the market is making an incorrect assumption.
Bill, can you tell us where Cascadero is traded and under what symbols?
Cascadero is traded on the Toronto Stock Exchange, the Venture Exchange in Vancouver. And it trades under the symbol of CCD. And it is fairly liquid in this market, and although we've had all of this controversy, the stock has come off recently with people going, well, okay, we got to get out of this thing. But the fact is that Taron is not the entire value of this property. We've got a well-balanced portfolio, all very good properties. They're all going to be looked at. and the company has a bright future.
Bill, where can people contact you?
People can email me at bill@cascadero.com, or they can phone the office here in Vancouver, 604-924-5504, and we take calls all day from anybody, and we have several people that phone me all the time for an update. And the other complaint is that we don't put out regular news releases, but when we don't have anything to say, there's no point in putting out a news release that we got nothing to say. It takes a long time to develop one property, and there's several stages of data that you got to go through, and you do it in the same order, you do it correctly, you usually succeed.
Bill, thanks for the update.
Okay, Jim, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity, and thank you all the Cascadero shareholders are staying with us. We're going to be fine.
We've been speaking with Cascadero Chairman Bill McWilliam. I'm Jim Goddard. Our conversation took place on July 27th.
Comments made on Company Showcase are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any manner whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Archived online at HowStreet.com. Company Showcase is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.